Very good morning to you both.
Morning, chaps.
Well, this is just about the most controversial figure from the referendum campaign, and people will remember that Nigel Farage, the morning after the yes vote, said that he didn't think that this figure stood up. So how come Boris Johnson is still talking about it, David?
Well, it must be true. It was on the side of a bus. In big letters. Look, there's lies, there's damn lies, and there's statistics. It's about the gross figure. I don't know why. It's a semantic argument here. I don't know why, A, he used it, but B, it's the gross figure. It's a bit like your salary. You know, if you're earning 20 grand a year, and if you are, it's a scandal. Then you know, if you had to pay some of that back to the Daily Mirror to buy your food from their shops, then you wouldn't be dictating how you pay. But it's not true.
The figure's not true, and that is the problem. And that the net amount is probably 150, 160 million pounds a week. Still a lot.
To be fair to Boris,
he talks about take control of it now.
Let me play devil's advocate. He's talking about taking control of a pot of money, and it would be nice to see a large amount of it go to the NHS. He doesn't say 350 million to go to the NHS. Also, to be fair to him, my feeling about it, I read his piece, his 4,000-word piece in Telegraph, and actually what he does do, whether you like him or not, or agree with him or not, he's laid out a very firm, clear position for what he thinks we should now do. I'm not sensing that clarity from Theresa May or any of the other members of the cabinet.
Well, isn't that part of his point of writing it?
Yeah, but also she's got to do the negotiations. Now, he's miffed, Foreign Secretary being frozen out. But that is a brutal act of treachery. A week before she goes to Florence in Italy to lay out her position for the negotiations she has to do. He's finalising this piece, this act of brutal treachery, on the day she is dealing with a London
But he's doing it. He's doing it because he perceives, as many people do, that Theresa May is terminally damaged as Prime Minister, incredibly weak, has lost control of her cabinet. And David, at some point, you know, if she is going to go sooner rather than later, we are going to have this jostling for position to run the party. And there are a lot of people on the Conservative side who actually look at Boris Johnson and think, you know what, we could do worse. Now, people may not agree, but a lot of people are of that view.
Well, there's two points for this. One is that Theresa May is weak. She can't do anything about this. The second thing is that...
Why do you say she can't do anything about it? Do you mean that in normal, strong times, a Prime Minister who had been undermined by their Foreign Secretary would get rid of him?
She cannot fire him because that would then trigger a split in the cabinet. There are members of the cabinet who would fall behind Boris.
But that shows how weak she is, doesn't it?
But the other thing is, she's saying nothing about Brexit. She's given us no positive vision. She's actually
about to go to Florence and do a lovely speech about it.
But also, I think Boris is frustrated. The speech was drafted last week while he was away. He was sent away instead of the International Development Secretary to the hurricane-ravaged islands to get out the way. And he feels he's being marginalised. There was a piece in the Times written by a journalist who's friendly with the Treasury, ripping shreds out of Boris. So he feels frustrated.
Having said that, okay, Kevin, let's get into the weeds of all the newspaper politics here, right? The Telegraph is Boris's paper historically. He did the big exclusive in the Telegraph. The Times now say Johnson cut adrift. There's a little bit of politics going on with the papers here and their positioning.
I expect viewers and voters are sick of it.
Well, they might be, but there's also a bigger point, isn't it? Which is, if you're Boris Johnson, what he's really doing, he's taking a massive bet on two things. One, that Theresa May's finished, which he might be right about. Secondly, that Brexit may not turn out to be the disaster that many of its critics fear, that it might actually be quite a success. And if it is, and he's the guy who seemed to be the one that drove it, he gets showered in glory down the line. It may be painful in the short term, but in 3 years' time, Boris Johnson might be Prime Minister, Brexit may have worked. Happy days for him.
All that might be true, and that might be a 4,200-word job application, his CV that he wrote. But the problem is, when you're a government having to negotiate Brexit, trying to get the best deal for Britain, when you've got a Prime Minister and a Foreign Secretary going different ways, she is too weak to sack him. If she was strong, he wouldn't have written it. How does that look to the rest of Europe when they're negotiating with
I get that. Explain to our viewers.
But it's important, that.
Explain to our viewers the really important bit of this. What is the substantive difference between Boris Johnson's position as of today and the one articulated by Theresa May and the government?
From a mission in his 4,200-word piece, he avoided the transition period. That is, you come to March 2019, Britain leaves the European Union, do you go off the cliff, or do you have arrangements over a period of time and how you trade?
He says we should never pay for the right to have access to a market that will want our goods. Is that in itself an offensive thought process?
He accepts there will be a divorce payment. It'll be an argument over how much.
He thinks 10 billion is the maximum we should pay, right? The others think nearer 50. I mean, but these are the serious points of dispute between them.
They are, and if you're playing this in public, how are you going to get anywhere with Michelle Bernier representing the other countries?
Because
they will know you're bitterly divided.
Let me throw this to you, David Wooding. Could this all be a bigger game? Could it be that Boris has been charged with saying all this so that the European Union think there's this guy who's saying 10 billion and then screw them, right? We better do a better deal with the good guys. Otherwise, if this bloke takes charge, we've had it.